You're surrounded by dangerous people. Here's how to spot them. Have you ever looked at someone, maybe a friend, a co-worker, or even a family member, and felt that something was just off? Maybe they smile at you, speak kindly, even act in ways that seem generous. But deep down, you sense an undercurrent of something darker, an energy that doesn't match their words, an inconsistency in their actions, a subtle manipulation that doesn't seem obvious until it's too late. The truth is, dangerous people don't always look dangerous. They don't walk around with warning labels or wear sinister expressions, but often they appear charming, intelligent, even helpful. But beneath the surface, they can be the very thing that drains your energy, distorts your reality, and leads you into quiet destruction. We live in a world where danger is not always physical, it is psychological, emotional, and even spiritual. The most dangerous people are not those who openly declare war against you, but those who infiltrate your mind, twist your perceptions, and make you question your own sanity. They are the manipulators, the deceivers, the ones who play the long game of control, often without you even realizing it. And the scariest part, they may not even be doing it consciously. Some people are so deeply lost in their own dysfunction that they don't even realize the damage they cause. They justify their actions, rewrite the past to fit their narratives, and operate in a world where they are always the hero even when they are the villain in someone else's story.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
So how do you spot them? How do you protect yourself from people who don't appear dangerous at first glance? The first step is understanding that danger doesn't always come in loud, obvious forms. It often comes in whispers, in small betrayals, in invisible chains that tighten slowly over time. It comes in people who make you doubt your instincts, who wear masks so well that you start questioning whether you're the one imagining things. It comes in the form of those who never take responsibility, who twist every situation to make themselves the victim, who drain your emotional energy while making you feel guilty for even noticing. Look at the people around you. Do they respect your boundaries, or do they push them just enough to see what they can get away with? Do they celebrate your successes, or do they subtly undermine them with backhanded compliments and veiled criticism? Do they listen when you express discomfort, or do they find ways to make you feel like you're overreacting? The most dangerous people are masters at rewriting reality. They distort events, gaslight your experiences, and create a version of the truth that benefits them while disempowering you. But here's the real question. How many people in your life have you excused simply because you didn't want to face the truth about them? How many times have you ignored red flags because confronting them would mean changing your entire perception of someone you once trusted? This is where true awareness begins, not just in recognizing danger, but in acknowledging your own patterns of denial. Because the hardest truth to accept is this: the presence of dangerous people in your life is not just about them, it's also about you. It's about what you tolerate, what you rationalize, what you allow to continue even when your gut tells you something is wrong. So ask yourself, who in your life makes you feel drained instead of energized? Who has a pattern of subtle manipulation, of twisting the truth, of never truly taking responsibility? And more importantly, why are they still in your life? The silent manipulators, how they control you without you noticing. Not all dangerous people come into your life with obvious red flags. In fact, the most destructive ones are often the hardest to detect. They don't yell, they don't threaten, they don't openly show their intentions. Instead, they manipulate in silence. They make you doubt yourself. They twist reality so subtle that you don't even realize you're being controlled. And by the time you do, it feels too late, as if parts of yourself have already been rewritten by their influence. These people operate in ways that are difficult to prove. They don't attack you directly, but they plant seeds of doubt in your mind. They make small comments that make you question your worth, your decisions, your own memories. They use passive-aggressive remarks that are just subtle enough to be deniable, so when you confront them, they act as if you're imagining things. They rewrite history, insisting that things didn't happen the way you remember. And over time, you start to wonder, am I overreacting? Am I the problem? This is how control works, not through force, but through erosion. They chip away at your confidence, your instincts, your sense of self, until you no longer trust your own reality. And once they have that power over you, they don't even need to do much. You will start policing yourself for them. You'll hesitate before speaking up. You'll second guess whether your feelings are valid. You'll shrink yourself down just to avoid conflict, just to keep the peace, just to avoid the exhausting cycle of their denial and justification. And here's the scariest part. Many of these people don't even see themselves as manipulators. They truly believe their version of events. They rewrite reality so convincingly that they believe their own lies. But they justify everything they do, always making themselves the victim, always finding a reason why they are never at fault. They don't just manipulate others, they manipulate themselves. And that makes them even more dangerous, because they are not consciously playing a game. They genuinely believe they are right, and that makes them nearly impossible to reason with. So how do you escape this kind of control? How do you recognize when you are being manipulated in ways that are invisible to the outside world? The first step is to trust yourself again. If you feel like something is wrong, that feeling is real. If someone makes you feel confused, drained, or constantly on edge, pay attention. That is not how healthy relationships feel. Healthy people do not make you question your own reality. They do not make you feel like you have to prove your pain in order to be heard. They do not make you feel small so they can feel big. The second step is to observe patterns, not isolated incidents. Manipulators are masters at making every situation seem like a one-time misunderstanding. But if you step back and look at the bigger picture, you'll see the repetition, the same excuses, the same tactics, but the same way they always manage to turn things around on you. The same way they avoid accountability again and again. And finally, the most important step: distance. You cannot change these people. You cannot make them see what they refuse to see. You can talk, you can plead, you can explain, but at the end of the day, if someone is committed to a distorted version of reality, they will never see the truth. Your only real power is in choosing whether or not to keep them in your life. But that brings us to a deeper question: why do we allow these people to stay? Why do we hesitate to walk away, even when we know they are hurting us? The answer is not simple, but it is worth exploring. Because the real battle is not just against them, it is against the parts of ourselves that still believe we owe them something. Why we let dangerous people stay, the lies we tell ourselves if spotting dangerous people is difficult, walking away from them is even harder. It should be simple. When someone manipulates us, drains us, or distorts our reality, the logical response is to remove them from our lives. But if it were that easy, we wouldn't keep making excuses for them. We wouldn't keep hoping they'll change. We wouldn't keep rationalizing their behavior, convincing ourselves that maybe, just maybe, we're the ones who are being too harsh. So why do we do it? Why do we let people stay in our lives even when we know, deep down, that they are toxic? The answer lies not in them, but in us. It's about the lies we tell ourselves, the justifications, the emotional attachments, the fears that keep us trapped in unhealthy dynamics. And the biggest lie of all, the belief that we owe them something. Maybe it's because they were there for us in the past, maybe it's because we see their potential, but maybe it's because we've invested so much time and energy into the relationship that walking away feels like admitting failure. But here's the truth: time invested in the wrong person does not increase their value. Holding on to someone who continually hurts you does not make you loyal. It makes you a prisoner of your own hope. Another reason we stay is because of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of confrontation. Fear that we are misjudging them, that we are being too unforgiving, that maybe we are the ones who need to change. Manipulators feed on this fear. They make sure that the moment you start pulling away, they do just enough to pull you back in. A sudden apology, a temporary change in behavior, a moment of kindness that makes you question whether they were really that bad after all. This cycle repeats endlessly, keeping you locked in an emotional tug-of-war where you are constantly waiting for them to finally become the person you wish they were. But what if they never do? What if the version of them you're waiting for is nothing more than an illusion, a projection of your own hope rather than reality? This is the hardest realization to accept, that some people will never change, not because they can't, but because they don't see a reason to. As long as their behavior is tolerated, as long as the people around them adjust, apologize, and accommodate, they have no real motivation to be different. And the longer you wait, the more of yourself you lose. So the real question is not about them, it's about you. What are you afraid of losing if you walk away? What part of yourself is still seeking validation from someone who has proven they are incapable of giving it? And more importantly, what could your life look like if you finally let go? Because the truth is, sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is not the manipulator, it's the version of you that keeps allowing them to stay. Breaking free, reclaiming your life from toxic influence, there comes a moment when you realize that staying in toxic cycles is no longer about them, it's about you. It's about the part of you that keeps hoping, keeps excusing, keeps rationalizing why you should endure just a little longer. It's about the part of you that has been conditioned to believe that walking away is selfish, that cutting ties is cruel, that setting boundaries is an act of betrayal. But what if everything you've been taught about loyalty has been a lie? What if true loyalty is not about enduring mistreatment, but about honoring yourself enough to leave when you are no longer respected? The hardest thing about breaking free is not the external consequences, it's the internal battle. It's the guilt that creeps in, whispering that maybe you're overreacting. It's the self-doubt that makes you question whether you're expecting too much from people. It's the fear that once you walk away you'll be alone, that no one else will understand, that maybe you'll regret it. But here's what you need to understand. Every time you let someone stay in your life who continuously disrespects you, you teach yourself that your own well-being is secondary. You reinforce the idea that your comfort, your peace, your mental clarity are negotiable. And the longer you tolerate toxic energy, the more you become accustomed to dysfunction, to chaos, to relationships that drain rather than nourish you. Breaking free is not just about removing the person, it's about removing the version of yourself that tolerated them. It's about unlearning the patterns that made you vulnerable to manipulation in the first place. It's about recognizing that you do not need permission to walk away, that closure is not something they have to give you, that your freedom is worth more than their approval. The moment you decide that you no longer need to explain, justify, or defend your decision to protect your peace, you reclaim your power. But here's the real test once you leave: can you stay gone? Because toxic people have a way of pulling you back just when you start to heal. They sense when you are detaching, when you are rebuilding, when you are finally seeing them for who they are, and that is when they will suddenly become everything you ever wanted them to be. They will apologize, they will make promises, they will remind you of the good times, and for a moment you will wonder if maybe, just maybe, they have finally changed. But you must remember this: if their change only happens when they fear losing you, it is not real change, it is manipulation in disguise. The real victory is not just in leaving, it is in refusing to return to what broke you. It is in trusting yourself enough to know that you do not need toxic love, toxic friendships, or toxic validation to be whole. It is in choosing yourself, not just once, but every day thereafter. And one day, when you look back, you will realize that the most dangerous people were not the ones who deceived you, it was the part of you that believed you had to stay. And when that part of you finally dies, you are free,